Here's something they don't teach in school. Every person who changed the world, every single one, started out convinced they were ordinary. Abraham Lincoln thought he was just a country lawyer. Rosa Parks was a tired seamstress. Your neighbor who volunteers at the shelter, the teacher who stayed late to help your child, the friend who called when you needed them most, none of them woke up feeling like heroes. They felt exactly like you do right now. And that's the secret no one tells you. Heroism isn't a feeling you wait for. It's a decision you make on a Tuesday morning when everything feels ordinary and you choose to matter anyway. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, I'm just trying to get through the week, Mr. President. I've got bills to pay, problems to solve, and most days I can barely keep my own life together. How am I supposed to be anyone's hero? And that's exactly why I wanted to talk with you today, because that feeling, that sense that you're not enough, that you're too ordinary, too busy, too broken to make a difference, that's the only thing standing between you and the life you're meant to live. By the end of our time together, I want to show you three things. First, why your ordinary life is the perfect training ground for extraordinary impact. Not someday when everything's perfect, but right now, with all its mess and struggle. Second, how to recognize the heroic opportunities hiding in your daily routine. They're there, I promise you. You've been walking past them for years. And third, most importantly, how to take the first step tomorrow morning. Not someday when you feel ready, but tomorrow, while you still feel ordinary. Because here's what I learned, leading this nation through crisis after crisis. You've been waiting to feel qualified, to feel brave, to feel certain before you act. And I'm going to show you why that wait is the only thing standing between you and the life you're meant to live. You look at people making a difference and you think they have something you don't. Better circumstances, more courage, clearer purpose, but the truth is simpler and more liberating than that. They just started before they were ready. I didn't write books about leadership. I led through the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Civil Rights Movement, the space race. I made decisions when one wrong move could end civilization. And here's what those impossible moments taught me. Heroism isn't what we think it is. And that's the best news you'll hear all day. Because if heroism required what you think it requires, you'd be right to give up. But it doesn't. It requires something much simpler, much more available to you right now. Right now. You're living someone else's small idea of what your life should be. Safe, comfortable, forgettable, but there's another life available to you, one where you go to sleep tired but fulfilled, where people remember your name with gratitude, where you see yourself in the mirror and think, I'm proud of who I'm becoming. The gap between these two lives isn't as wide as you think. It's not a canyon you need to leap across. It's a door you need to walk through, and I'm going to show you where that door is. Now let me clear up some things you probably believe about heroism that simply aren't true. You think heroism requires grand gestures or famous moments. It doesn't. You think you need more confidence before you can start. But confidence follows action. It doesn't come before it. You think your ordinary life is the problem, something to escape from before you can do meaningful work. But your ordinary life isn't the problem. It's the opportunity you've been overlooking. And you think starting small is settling, giving up on real impact. But starting small isn't settling. It's the only way real change happens. This isn't another motivational speech telling you that you're special. This is a president who sent men to the moon telling you how to stop waiting for the perfect moment and start building one. This is a man who faced down nuclear war explaining why your Tuesday morning matters more than you know. And I see you. I see you tired of feeling like you're not doing enough, frustrated that life feels smaller than you dreamed, worried you'll reach the end having played it safe, having helped no one, having been no one. And I'm here to tell you that future isn't written yet, not even close. So let me take you back to a moment when I learned this the hard way. Let me take you to the South Pacific in 1943. I'm 26 years old. commanding a patrol torpedo boat called PT-109, and I just made the worst mistake of my naval career. It's after midnight, pitch black, and we're patrolling the waters near the Solomon Islands. My crew is exhausted. We've been at this for hours. And then, out of nowhere, I see it. A Japanese destroyer, cutting through the darkness at full speed, heading straight for us. I try to turn. I'm screaming orders. But it's too late. The destroyer slices PT-109 inches half like it's made of paper. The boat explodes. Fuel ignites on the water. Men are screaming, burning, drowning. I'm thrown across the deck, my back injured, and when I surface, I can hear my crew calling out in the darkness. 11 men, scattered in burning water, looking to me to save them. And here's what I felt in that moment. I felt like a fraud. I felt unqualified. My first thought wasn't how brave I was or what a hero I'd be. My first thought was, I got these men killed. I failed. I'm 26 years old and I just destroyed everything. And every single part of me wanted to give up, to let the ocean take me, to stop pretending I was someone who could lead anyone. But there was one problem with giving up. My crew was still alive. McMahon, my engineer, had severe burns and couldn't swim. Other men were injured, struggling, calling for help. And I had a choice in that moment. I could drown in my guilt and fear, or I could act despite it. So I did the only thing I could think of. I took the strap of McMahon's life jacket in my teeth, and I swam. For 5 hours, I towed him through the ocean toward a small island I'd seen in the distance. 5 hours, injured, exhausted, certain I wouldn't make it. But someone needed me, and that need mattered more than my fear. We made it to the island. All 11 men survived that swim. But we were on a deserted piece of coral. No food, no water, no rescue coming. For 6 days, we waited, and every single day, I had to make the same choice. Give up, or take one more impossible action. Swim to another island looking for help. Carve a message in a coconut and pray someone finds it. Keep the men's spirits up when I had no hope myself. And here's what I learned in those 6 days that changed everything I understood about heroism. Heroism isn't one big moment. It's choosing action over comfort in 100 small moments when no one's watching, when you're exhausted and afraid but someone needs you. When we were finally rescued, people called me a hero. They gave me medals, but I knew the truth. I didn't feel brave out there. I felt terrified every single moment. The difference wasn't that I had courage others didn't have. The difference was that I acted anyway. I chose service over safety. I chose my crew's needs over my own comfort. And in making those choices, again and again, I became someone I didn't know I could be. Now you're probably thinking, but that's war. That's life and death. My life doesn't have moments like that. But here's what I didn't understand until much later. Your life has those moments every single day. They just look different. They look like the neighbor whose marriage is falling apart and you know you should call, but it would be awkward. They look like the coworker being treated unfairly, and you know you should speak up, but you might face consequences. They look like the cause that keeps appearing in your life, and you know you should get involved, but you're already too busy. Every single one of those moments is your PT-109. The question is, let me tell you about another moment, a very different kind of moment. Every move could cost me the election, and my advisor walks into the room and hands me a phone. He says, Coretta Scott King is on the line. Her husband, Martin, is in jail in Georgia, and she's terrified he's going to die there. The local authorities have it out for him. This could be it. Now I've got a choice to make, and I've got about 10 seconds to make it. My advisors are already shaking their heads. Don't do it, they're saying. You'll lose the southern states. You'll hand the election to Nixon. This is political suicide. And they're not wrong. Calling Coretta King to offer help getting involved in this situation, it could absolutely cost me everything I'd worked for. But here's the thing. I keep thinking about my own wife, Jackie. I keep thinking about how I'd feel if she called someone for help and they calculated whether helping her was politically convenient. I keep thinking about Martin Luther King sitting in that jail cell and his wife at home, terrified and alone. And I realize something. If I can't make this call, if I can't help one person when they need me because it might cost me something, then what's the point of being president anyway? So I make the call. I tell Coretta I'm going to do what I can. And then I call the judge in Georgia and I use whatever influence I have to get Martin released. And my advisors were right. It cost me politically. But here's what happened that they didn't predict. The black community, which had been skeptical of me, took notice. They spread the word. That simple phone call, that one moment of choosing humanity over politics, shifted the entire election. But that's not why I'm telling you this story. I'm telling you because of what I learned about when politics and humanity collide. The heroic choice is usually the one that costs you something, and it's usually simpler than you think. It's not a grand strategy or a complex plan. It's a phone call. It's showing up. It's doing the thing everyone advises you not to do because it's the right thing to do. Now you're thinking, but I'm not choosing between political careers and civil rights. I'm just trying to figure out whether to help my difficult relative or speak up at a meeting or volunteer for something I don't have time for. But that's exactly my point. You are making those choices every single day. And every time you choose convenience over conscience, comfort over courage, you're voting for the smaller version of yourself. Every time you choose the harder right over the easier wrong, you're becoming someone different, someone better, someone who, when they look back on their life, won't have regrets about the calls they didn't make. Let me take you to one more moment, probably the most terrifying 13 days of my life. October 1962, Soviet missiles in Cuba, nuclear weapons 90 miles from Florida, pointed at American cities. My generals are in the room, and they're telling me we need to invade Cuba immediately. We need to destroy those missiles before they're operational. And if we wait, if we hesitate, millions of Americans could die. But here's the problem. If we invade Cuba, the Soviets invade Berlin. If the Soviets invade Berlin, we're in World War III. And World War III, with nuclear weapons on both sides, means the end of civilization. Not maybe, not probably, definitely. Every expert is telling me something different. Every option on the table leads to catastrophe. And I'm the one who has to decide. For 13 days, I don't sleep. I meet with advisors around the clock. We're playing out scenarios, running calculations, trying to find a path that doesn't end in nuclear war. And the whole time, I feel completely unqualified for this. I'm thinking, I'm 45 years old. How did we get to a place where my decision determines whether human civilization continues to exist? And the weight of it, the sheer impossibility of making the right choice when there's no clear right choice, it's crushing. My generals want action. They want certainty. They want me to be decisive and strong and show the Soviets we mean business. But something in me says, wait. Something says, choose wisdom over action. Choose patience over certainty. So instead of invading, I set up a naval blockade. Instead of attacking, I open a back channel to Khrushchev. Instead of demanding unconditional surrender, I offer him a way to back down without looking weak. And it works. The missiles are removed. The world steps back from the brink. But here's what I never told anyone at the time. I wasn't confident that would work. I wasn't sure. I was terrified I was making the wrong call, that my hesitation would get people killed, that history would remember me as the president who was too weak to act when action was needed. Every hero feels unqualified. The difference is they decide anyway. not with perfect certainty, but with the best wisdom they can gather and the courage to act on it. And here's why I'm telling you these stories. They're not about how special I was, they're about how ordinary I felt and how I learned to lead anyway. Every single one of those moments, I felt like a fraud. I felt unprepared. I felt like someone else should be making these decisions. And I learned something that changed everything. That feeling never goes away. You don't wait until you feel qualified. You act despite feeling unqualified. And in the acting, you become qualified. So let me show you what that means for your life. Let me give you the lessons that took me years to learn, starting with the most important one. Heroism is local. The world doesn't need you to solve world hunger. It needs you to notice the single hungry person in front of you. Here's what happens. We look at problems and we think, it's too big, I'm too small, nothing I do matters. Millions of people are struggling. What difference does helping one person make? And that's the myth that keeps us paralyzed. The myth of scale. We think small actions don't matter because they don't solve the whole problem. But here's what I learned. Sending men to the moon, leading a nation through crisis after crisis. Every big change in history started with one person helping one person. The civil rights movement didn't start with a law. It started with Rosa Parks refusing to move from her seat. One woman, one bus, one moment. The moon landing didn't start with rockets. It started with a few people believing it was possible when everyone else thought they were crazy. Every movement, every change, every moment that mattered started small and local. So when you think, how can I change the world? You're asking the wrong question. The question is, will I change the world in front of me? Will I help the person I can help today? Will I make the call, have the conversation, show up for the neighbor, mentor the kid, speak up in the meeting? Because if you help one person, if you genuinely change one life, you've changed everything for them. And here's what happens next, the part we don't see. They help someone else. And that person helps someone else. And the ripple effect of your one action in your local world spreads farther than you'll ever know. Your neighborhood needs you more than a continent you've never visited. Your workplace needs you more than a cause you'll never meet. Your family needs you more than strangers who will never know your name. And I know that sounds small. I know you want your life to matter on a grand scale, but the grand scale is built from small scales. You don't start by changing the world. You start by changing a Tuesday. And here's the geographical truth of impact. You can't help everyone, but you can help someone. You can't solve every problem, but you can solve the problem in front of you. The person sitting next to you at work who's struggling. The kid in your neighborhood who needs a mentor. The elderly person on your street who needs help with groceries. The friend whose marriage is falling apart and needs someone to listen. That's your mission field. Not Africa, not Asia, not some distant place you'll visit someday. Right here, right now. The person you can reach out and touch. And this is what I learned from every letter I received as president, every person I met, every life that was changed by something I did. If it helps one person, it's heroic. You don't need to help thousands to matter. You need to help one. Deeply, genuinely, sacrificially. And in helping that one person, you become someone who helps people. And that identity, that sense of being someone who shows up, spreads into every area of your life. Now let me tell you about courage, because we've got this completely backwards. We think courage is a feeling. We think you wait until you feel brave, and then you act brave. But that's not how courage works. You'll never feel brave enough. You act brave, and the feeling follows. Here's the trap. You're waiting. You're waiting to feel confident before you speak up at work. You're waiting to feel certain before you make the career change. You're waiting to feel qualified before you volunteer, before you mentor someone, before you start the thing you know you should start. And while you're waiting for the feeling, years pass. Decades pass. And one day you realize you waited your whole life to feel ready and the feeling never came. But here's what I discovered facing down nuclear war. swimming in the Pacific, making decisions that affected millions of lives. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's action despite fear. Every time I made a hard decision, I was terrified. Every time I took a risk, I felt like I might fail. But I learned something that changed everything. Courage is a muscle. It grows with use and atrophies with avoidance. Every time you do the scared thing, courage gets a little stronger. Every time you avoid the scared thing, courage gets a little weaker. You know what happens when you lift weights? Your muscles hurt. They tear. They feel weak. But in the recovery, they grow stronger. Courage works exactly the same way. You do something that scares you. It feels terrible. You doubt yourself. But the next time you face that situation, it's a little easier. Not because the situation changed, because you changed. You built the muscle, and here's the biological truth. Fear is designed to keep you safe, not to guide your purpose. Your brain evolved to keep you alive in a world with predators and cliffs and starvation. So it screams at you to avoid anything uncertain, anything uncomfortable, anything that might go wrong. But the things that matter, the things that make life meaningful, all of them live on the other side of fear. So if you wait until fear goes away, you'll never do anything that matters. Look at history. Lincoln was terrified of failing the nation during the Civil War. He struggled with depression his entire life, but he led anyway. Rosa Parks was scared when she refused to give up her seat. She knew what could happen to her, but she acted anyway. Every person you admire felt fear and acted anyway. The difference between them and everyone else isn't that they felt brave. It's that they acted brave. And here's the mathematical truth that will change your life if you let it. Confidence doesn't create action. Action creates confidence. You think the equation is, I need confidence, then I'll act, then I'll succeed. But the real equation is, I act despite uncertainty, then I succeed, then I gain confidence. The action comes first. Always. Success doesn't come from certainty before action. It comes from action despite uncertainty. So stop waiting to feel brave. Act brave right now while you're still scared, and the feeling will catch up with you. I promise. I've lived it. And once you understand this, once you really get that courage is a practice, not a feeling, everything changes. Because you stop waiting for someday and you start building today. Now let me tell you something that's going to make you uncomfortable, but it's the truth. Your calling is interrupting your comfort. The moment when you want to look away is the moment you're most needed. Here's what I want you to do right now. Think about the last week. Think about the moments when you felt uncomfortable, when you saw something that bothered you and you looked away, when someone needed help and you pretended you didn't notice, when you knew you should speak up and you stayed quiet, when you knew you should reach out and you scrolled past. I want you to really think about those moments, because those moments, those are your calling trying to get your attention. See, we've got this idea that our calling arrives as clarity. Like one day we'll wake up and a voice from heaven will say, this is what you're meant to do. But that's not how it works. Your calling doesn't arrive as clarity. It arrives as discomfort. It arrives as the thing that keeps bothering you, the cause that keeps showing up in your life, the person who keeps coming to mind, the problem you can't stop thinking about, the conversation you keep avoiding. And here's the pattern I want you to recognize. Every time you feel the pull to look away, to avoid, to say not my problem, or maybe later, you're dodging your purpose. The avoidance itself is the signal. The thing making you most uncomfortable right now, that's probably it. That's probably what you're meant to do. Let me give you some examples. Your neighbor's marriage is falling apart. You know because you see it, you hear it, it's obvious. And every time you see them, you think, I should say something. I should reach out. I should offer to help. But it would be awkward. It would be uncomfortable. What if they don't want help? What if I make it worse? So you smile and wave and you say nothing. And that discomfort you feel, that's your calling, that's your purpose saying they need you and you're walking away. Or your workplace. There's something wrong. Someone's being treated unfairly. A policy is hurting people. A decision is being made that you know is wrong. And you keep thinking, I should say something, someone should speak up, but you could face consequences. You could make waves. You could put your job at risk. So you stay quiet. And that knot in your stomach, that's not anxiety. That's your calling. That's your purpose, saying, this moment needs you and you're choosing safety, or there's a cause. Something you keep seeing, keep reading about, keep feeling drawn to. Kids who need mentors, elderly people who need company, a community need that keeps appearing. And you think, I should do something. I should get involved. But you're already busy. You're already overwhelmed. You don't have time, so you scroll past. You tell yourself, maybe someday. And that pull you feel, that persistent tug, that's your calling. Here's what I learned making the hard calls as president. You know exactly what you should be doing. You've known for a while. The question isn't what. You know what. The question is, when will you stop pretending you don't know? When will you stop using I'm too busy, or it's not the right time, or someone else will handle it as excuses? Because those aren't reasons. Those are fears wearing disguises. The discomfort is the signal. The convenience excuse is the enemy. Every time you say maybe later, you're really saying maybe never, because later never comes. There's always a reason to wait. There's always something more convenient to do. And while you're waiting for convenient, years pass. And one day you look back and realize you spent your whole life avoiding the very thing that would have given your life meaning. So let me ask you directly, what's the thing? What's the thing that keeps bothering you? What's the person who keeps coming to mind? What's the cause that keeps showing up? What's the conversation you keep avoiding? That's it. That's your calling. And it's interrupting your comfort, because that's how callings work. They don't fit neatly into your schedule. They don't wait for perfect timing. They interrupt. And your job isn't to wait until they're convenient. Your job is to respond anyway. Now I need to tell you something that might sound strange, but it's the truest thing I know. Service is selfish in the best way. When you serve others, you're not sacrificing yourself. You're finding yourself. We've got this backwards. We think serving others is about giving something up, about sacrifice and duty and doing what's right, even though it costs us. And sure, service costs something. It costs time, energy, comfort, but here's what we miss. What you get back is worth infinitely more than what you give up. When you serve others, when you genuinely help someone, you're not sacrificing yourself, you're becoming yourself. Here's what I mean. Think about the times in your life when you felt most alive, most fulfilled, most like yourself. I bet it wasn't when you were focused on your own pleasure or comfort or success. I bet it was when you helped someone, when you made a difference, when you knew, absolutely knew, that you mattered to someone else. That feeling, that sense of purpose and significance and connection, that's what your soul is hungry for, and you only get it through service. There's this equation I figured out. Happiness equals significance times connection. You can have pleasure without service. You can have comfort without service. But you can't have happiness without service. Because happiness isn't getting what you want. It's becoming who you're meant to be. And who you're meant to be is someone who matters to others. Here's the identity truth. You become who you serve. If you serve yourself, you become small and self-focused and empty. If you serve others, you become expansive and purposeful and full. It's not a moral lesson. It's just how humans work. We're wired for connection and meaning. And you can't have either of those sitting on your couch, focused on your own needs. And here's the legacy principle. You're remembered by who you helped, not by what you owned or what you achieved for yourself, by who you helped. Think about the people you admire, the people whose names you remember with gratitude. What do you remember about them? You remember that they showed up, that they helped, that they cared, that they made your life better. And that's what people will remember about you, or not remember, if you never showed up. So when I say service is selfish, I mean it's the most self-interested thing you can do. Not in a greedy way, in an honest way. If you want a meaningful life, if you want to be happy, if you want to become someone you're proud of, you have to serve others. There's no other path. Every person living a small life convinced themselves that self-focus would bring happiness. And every person living a meaningful life discovered that self-transcendence brought joy. Ask not what the world can do for you, not because sacrifice is noble, but because asking what you can do for the world is how you discover who you are. It's how you find your purpose. It's how you build the life you actually want to live. Service isn't what you do for others. It's what you do for yourself by doing for others. And let me tell you one more thing, maybe the most important thing. The only required qualification is willingness. You don't need permission, credentials, or perfect timing. You need to show up. Here's the myth that keeps people paralyzed. The myth that you need to be qualified before you start, that you need training or credentials or years of experience or perfect circumstances. And because you don't have those things, you don't start. You tell yourself, not yet. Maybe when I'm more experienced. Maybe when I have more time. Maybe when I figure myself out. And while you're waiting to be qualified, people who are less qualified than you are out there doing the work. Let me tell you something about the moon mission. When I said we're going to the moon, we had no idea how to do it. None. We didn't have the technology. We didn't have the knowledge. We didn't have the qualification. What we had was willingness. We said, we're going to figure this out. And we did. Not because we were ready, because we started. Here's what happens with amateurs versus experts. Experts know all the reasons something can't be done. They know the obstacles. They know the risks. They know the conventional wisdom. And sometimes that knowledge keeps them from trying. But amateurs? Amateurs don't know it's impossible. So they try anyway. And sometimes they succeed where experts failed because they weren't limited by knowing all the reasons they shouldn't start. Now, I'm not saying expertise doesn't matter. Of course it matters. But expertise comes from doing, not from waiting to do. You don't become an expert by waiting until you're ready. You become an expert by starting before you're ready and learning along the way. The credibility comes from the work, not before it. And here's the waiting game truth. How you wait determines if you ever start. If you say not yet, and then you start learning, preparing, taking steps toward the goal, that's productive waiting. But if you say not yet, and then you just keep living the same life, hoping somehow you'll be more ready in the future, that's not waiting, that's avoiding. And not yet becomes never. The perfect moment is a lie. It's always too soon until it's too late. There's always a reason to wait. You're never as ready as you want to be. And if you wait for perfect conditions, you'll wait forever. Because perfect conditions don't exist. They never have. They never will. Every person who did something that mattered did it in imperfect conditions while feeling unprepared. So here's what matters. Willingness. Are you willing to start messy? Are you willing to fail? Are you willing to learn in public? Are you willing to help even though you don't know everything? Because if you are, if you're willing, that's the only qualification you need. The people who need your help don't need your perfection. They need your presence. They don't need you to have it all figured out. They need you to show up anyway. And here's what I learned launching the moon mission, leading through crisis, making decisions that shaped history. The mission wasn't launched because we were ready. We were ready because we launched. Your life works the same way. You don't wait until you're ready to start living meaningfully. You start living meaningfully and you become ready. So stop waiting for permission. No one's going to give it to you. Stop waiting for credentials. You earn them by doing the work. Stop waiting for perfect timing. It doesn't exist. The only thing you need to start is willingness. Are you willing? If the answer is yes, then you're qualified. Now here's what separates the inspired from the heroic. What you do tomorrow morning. Not someday, tomorrow. Because everything I've told you today means nothing if you don't apply it. So let me give you 3 practices that will change your life if you use them. The first practice is the morning question. Every morning, before you check your phone, before you start your day, before you do anything else, ask yourself one question. Who needs me to show up today? Keep a journal by your bed. Write the date. Write the question. And then let one name or one situation surface. Don't force it. Don't overthink it. Just let it come to mind. Who needs you today? Maybe it's your spouse. Maybe it's your kid. Maybe it's a coworker or a neighbor or a friend. Maybe it's that project you've been avoiding. Just one name, one situation, and then commit to one small action for that person or situation. Just one thing you'll do before noon, no matter what. Here's why this works. This question shifts you from consumer to contributor, from what do I need today to where am I needed today. And that shift changes everything. Most people wake up asking, what do I have to do today? What do I want to do today? How can I get through today? Those questions make you small. But when you wake up asking who needs me today, you become someone different. You become someone who shows up, someone who serves, someone who matters. And that identity spreads into every area of your life. Now you're thinking, what if no one comes to mind? Then you're not paying attention. Look again. Someone needs you. Maybe it's the person you've been avoiding. Maybe it's the situation you've been putting off. Maybe it's the conversation you don't want to have. That uncomfortable thought. That's the answer. And if you genuinely can't think of anyone, then today's your day to pay attention, to notice, to see who's struggling around you, because I promise you, someone is. And what if it's overwhelming? What if 5 people come to mind and you can't help them all? Then pick one, just one. You're not saving the world. You're showing up for Tuesday. One person, one day, one action. That's all. Don't make this complicated. Don't make this huge. Just answer the question, pick one action, do it before noon. The second practice is the discomfort audit. Every evening, around 8 o'clock, set a reminder on your phone. And when it goes off, answer 3 questions. First, when did I notice someone needed help today? Second, what stopped me from helping? And third, what's one thing I could do tomorrow to help in a similar situation? That's it. 3 questions. And be honest with yourself. Not judgmental, honest. This isn't about beating yourself up. It's about training yourself to see opportunities and act on them. Here's what happens when you do this every day. You start noticing patterns. You realize, oh, I always avoid helping when it might be awkward. Or, I always put off helping when I'm tired. Or, I always assume someone else will handle it. And when you see the patterns, you can change them. You're not doing this to feel guilty. You're doing this to grow, to close the gap between noticing and doing, between seeing someone who needs help and actually helping them. Now, what if you see too many needs? What if every day you're noticing 10, 20, 50 ways people need help and you can't do it all? Good. You're finally awake. You're finally paying attention to what's actually happening around you. Pick one. You can't help everyone, but you can help someone. And that someone deeply and genuinely help is enough. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Don't let I can't help everyone become the excuse for I won't help anyone. And what if you feel guilty? What if doing this audit makes you feel terrible about all the times you didn't help? Then good. Guilt with action is growth. It means you're seeing where you fell short and you're committed to doing better. But guilt without action is waste. If you feel guilty and then you don't change anything, you're just torturing yourself for no reason. Feel the guilt, learn from it, act differently tomorrow. That's the point. The third practice is the weekly hero act. Once a week, do something that costs you something and helps someone else. Make it inconvenient. Make it matter. Sunday night, schedule one specific action for the week. And here's the rule. It must involve time, energy, or resources you'd prefer to keep. It must help someone who can't repay you. This isn't networking. This isn't building your resume. This is genuine service that costs you something. Examples. Mentor someone younger in your field. Really mentor them. Spend time. Share knowledge. Open doors. Help an elderly neighbor with yard work or groceries or home repairs. Give your Saturday morning. Volunteer at a place that actually needs you. Not the easy, feel-good volunteering. The hard stuff. The shelter. The prison ministry. The place that makes you uncomfortable. Have the hard conversation with someone who needs to hear truth. The conversation you've been avoiding because it might damage the relationship. Support someone's dream when it costs you something. Time, money, opportunity. Make it real and document it. Not on social media. In a journal. Write how it felt. What you learned. Who you became. Because here's why this practice changes everything. Heroism is a muscle. Once a week exercises build that muscle. Annual grand gestures don't. If you do one significant act of service every single week, by the end of the year you've done 52. 52 times you chose someone else's need over your own comfort. 52 times you practiced being a hero. Here's the progression. Month 1. Focus on just completing one act every week. Make it a habit. Month 2. Notice how you start seeing more opportunities. Your eyes open. Your heart softens. You start looking for ways to help instead of avoiding them. Month 3. Watch how it changes your identity. You start thinking of yourself as someone who helps people, someone who shows up, someone who matters. And by month 6, you look in the mirror and you see someone different. Not perfect, but better. Not complete, but growing. Someone you're proud of. Now you're thinking, I don't have time. But that's the test. You have time for what you prioritize. If you can't find 1 hour a week to help someone, you're not busy. You're avoiding. And that's okay. Be honest about it. But don't lie to yourself about time. And what if you're not good at it? Perfect. That's where growth lives. You're not trying to be good at helping people. You're trying to be someone who helps people. There's a difference. And what if people take advantage? Some will help them anyway. You're not doing this for them. You're doing this for you. You're becoming someone. And that someone you're becoming is worth the risk of being used. And once a month, do a hero's inventory. Ask yourself, in the last 30 days, who became better because I showed up? Name 3 people. If you can't name 3 people whose lives are better because you were in them this month, you're not living like a hero yet. Use that truth to adjust. Use that truth to change. Don't hide from it. Let it guide you. So now you know. Now you understand. Let me bring this all the way home. You are exactly who the world needs, but not in the way you think. The world doesn't need your perfection. It needs your presence. It doesn't need you to solve everything. It needs you to solve the thing in front of you. It doesn't need you to feel brave. It needs you to act brave. Here's what we learned today. Heroism is local. It starts in your neighborhood, your family, your workplace. The person next to you needs you more than a stranger across the world. And you change the world not by solving global problems, but by solving local ones. One person, one day, one choice at a time. Courage is a practice. You don't wait for the feeling. You create it through action. You act brave while feeling scared, and the courage catches up. It's a muscle you build, not a gift you're born with. Your calling is interrupting your comfort. That thing you keep avoiding, that person who keeps coming to mind, that cause that keeps showing up, that discomfort you keep feeling, that's it. That's your purpose trying to get your attention. And your job isn't to wait until it's convenient. Your job is to respond anyway. Service isn't sacrifice. It's how you find yourself. When you help others, you're not giving something up. You're becoming someone significant, someone connected, someone fulfilled. And you don't need permission or perfect timing. You need willingness. That's it. That's the only qualification. Are you willing to start messy? Are you willing to show up? If yes, you're ready. The hero the world needs isn't someone else. It's not the politician or the celebrity or the person with more resources or better circumstances. It's you, showing up on Tuesday morning, making the uncomfortable choice, helping the person everyone else walks past. It's you asking who needs me today and then doing something about the answer. It's you noticing when you want to look away and choosing to look closer instead. It's you doing one hard thing every week that costs you something and helps someone else. That's heroism. Not the Hollywood version, the real version. The version that actually changes lives. So ask not whether you're qualified to be a hero. Ask instead whether you're willing to act like one. Ask not whether your contribution is big enough. Ask instead whether you're contributing. Ask not whether you feel brave. Ask instead whether you're acting brave despite the fear. Because here's the truth no one tells you. The only difference between a hero and everyone else is that the hero decided their discomfort mattered less than someone else's need. That's it. That's the whole secret. Your fear versus their need. Your comfort versus their struggle. Your convenience versus their crisis. And the hero chooses them, not because it's easy, because it matters. And if you can make that decision once, tomorrow morning, in one small moment, you can make it again and again. And those decisions, stacked up day after day, week after week, become a life that mattered, a life that helped, a life that when you look back on it, you'll be proud of. Not perfect, but purposeful. Not easy, but meaningful. Not comfortable, but significant. The hero the world needs might be you. No, the hero the world needs is you. You just have to stop waiting for permission to become who you already are. You have to stop waiting to feel ready and start acting ready. You have to stop looking for the perfect moment and start building one. So here's what I need from you. If this resonated, if something in you woke up today, don't let that feeling fade. Subscribe to this channel so we can keep having these conversations. The world needs more people thinking about this stuff, talking about this stuff, living this stuff. Click that like button. Not for me. I don't need it. But click it to tell the algorithm to share this with someone else who needs to hear it. Because somewhere out there, someone is sitting in their living room, feeling ordinary, feeling stuck, feeling like they don't matter. And this message might be exactly what they need to take the first step. And here's the most important part. Leave a comment telling me about one time you stepped up and helped someone, even when it was hard. Share your story. Be specific. Tell me what happened, how it felt, what you learned, because your story might be the thing that gives someone else permission to become their own hero. Your courage creates courage. Your vulnerability creates vulnerability. Your action inspires action. So share it, make it real, make it public. Let your story matter. The world is waiting for you. Not someday when you're ready. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up and ask who needs me today and you actually do something about the answer, be the person you've been waiting to become. Stop waiting for perfect circumstances. Stop waiting for more confidence. Stop waiting for someone to give you permission. The moon wasn't reached by people who felt ready. It was reached by people who launched anyway. And your life, your meaningful, purposeful, heroic life, it works the same way. You launch before you're ready. You start before you feel confident. You help before you feel qualified. And in the doing, you become who you're meant to be. I believe in you. I believe that you have everything you need right now to take the first step. I believe that your ordinary life is hiding extraordinary opportunities. I believe that the person next to you needs exactly what you have to offer. I believe that you're closer to heroism than you think. It's not over there, it's right here. And I believe that tomorrow morning, when you wake up and make that first choice, when you answer that first question, when you take that first small action, you'll start becoming someone different, someone better, someone who matters. And I'll see you in the next one.